Well, you notice the little Christmas tree and the chimney and these decorations which remind us of Christmas, and today is Epiphany. It's January 6th. It's the day that in liturgical churches we commemorate the arrival of the Magi, or the wise men, or as I like to think of them, the not so wise men who tell Herod everything, and they're not the brightest stars around, but today is Epiphany, and one of the other images or groups of people we think of with the birth of Jesus, in addition to the Magi, are the shepherds who receive that first birth announcement in Luke chapter 2. And in Ezekiel, the image of God being a good shepherd is very prominent. I would argue that one of the most significant chapters in the book of Ezekiel is chapter 34, and I really urge you to read that chapter in its entirety, because the imagery of the poor shepherds of God's people, and what a lousy job the shepherds, the kings, did in misusing and abusing the people and leading to the fall of Jerusalem and the people being scattered. And that chapter is filled with God's criticism of the people who were appointed to be shepherds over the people. And then in verses 11 to 16, really just beautiful, beautiful verses that echo both Isaiah chapter 40, verses 1 to 11, and Jeremiah chapter 31, where God is described as the Good Shepherd. And that imagery, which we see in Isaiah and Jeremiah, here in Ezekiel 34, in the 23rd Psalm, clearly this is one of the most dominant and prominent images that is used for God in the Hebrew Bible. And in verses 11 and chapter 11 and verses 15 and 16, God says, "I myself will be the shepherd of my sheep, and I will make them lie down, says the Lord God. I will seek the lost, and I will bring back the strayed, and I will bind up the injured, and I will strengthen the weak. But the fat and the strong I will destroy. I will feed them with justice." Well, again, that imagery of God being the shepherd and what God will do is then picked up in the ministry of Jesus. Of course, it's in John chapter 10 where Jesus talks about how he is the good shepherd who lays down his life for the sheep, in John 10 verses 11 to 16 especially. And Jesus also tells a parable about how a shepherd leaves the 99 in Luke chapter 15 and goes to seek the sheep that is lost, just as God says here in Ezekiel 34 verse 15 that God will do that, and Jesus says that is what he does. This thread of God being like a good shepherd who knows the sheep, as Jesus says, he knows them all by name. It's amazing to me, isn't it, to think that Jesus knows your name. And Jesus says, "I know my own, and my own know me, and they recognize my voice, and they will not come to or follow a stranger." I pray that you know Jesus in that way as your good shepherd, who is with you no matter what you face every day, and who knows your name, and whose rod and whose staff and whose presence comforts you even in the most challenging days of your life.